shit, so I don't even bother.
Autumn breeze, blue skies and golden leaves, and I'll drive all day with not a care in the world. Amber eyes, you're giving me butterflies, so I'll drive.
You're between two dumbbells. I'm your host, Skip Hill, and I'm bringing over 40 years of bodybuilding experience to the table, including over 24 years of online coaching. I'm joined today by my co-host, Dr. Marv, aka the Educated Meathead. For each show, we posit the thought about a training exercise or training methodology, and then we deep dive into the minutia. We might argue and debate, or we might agree and tell each other how smart we both are, but at the end of the discussion, we both decide if we smash or pass the topic of the day. Of course, we'll also be doing another segment of Intimate Time with Skip and Dr. Marv, and then we'll finish, as always, with a few listener questions, which are typically, though not always, related to a past show. Remember, every time you comment on the show on YouTube, you'll be included in a drawing at the end of each month to win a $150 shopping spree for EliteFTS.com, 5 pounds of Team Skip protein from TrueNutrition.com, and you'll receive Dr. Marv's online bodybuilding anatomy course. The more times you respond, the better your chances of winning. We'll post the winner for the month on my Intense Muscle IG account, and we'll also reach out to the winner via their YouTube account. Dr. Marv, today I posit that bicep training, arm training in general, but we'll focus on bicep training today, is incredibly misunderstood, rarely optimized or optimal, and that most people, the vast majority of people, overtrain their arms, when if they were to undertrain or train less frequently, maybe even less volume, they would get more growth. What say you?
It's a lot.
I know, right?
It's
a
a lot to
long
unpack,
posit, right?
man. And we're recording in the morning for the first time ever. So, all right, let's go, brain. Yeah, there's a lot to unpack. I'm actually really excited. We've gotten multiple requests for bicep and arm training. So this is like multiple listener questions in one.
I know a thing or two about training, but I've built a reputation in the bodybuilding industry for removing skin. If you have too much skin, call me. Remember, skin is overrated.
So I think we should do anatomy breakdown first, talk about what the research says, and then we've got a lot to unpack because the spoiler alert is I agree with the vast majority of what you just said.
Okay. Because I've got a lot of opinions on arm training.
Correct.
I often
Same here.
take clients and they'll say, and you know, it's a thing in bodybuilding anyway. The more is better idea, whether it's cardio, whether it's gear, whether it's training, whether it's, you know, carbs, because I'm so depleted, when in reality, you're really just hungry.
Yeah.
And this happens a lot with arm training. Well, I need to train them more frequently. I'm not training them frequently enough. And I stumbled into this on accident because I'm not a very good bodybuilder. I'm mediocre at best, but I do have decent arms relative to everything else. So when I wanted to bring up my shoulders, as always, if you're going to focus on a different muscle group for growth, you got to pull back somewhere. You can't just keep adding more water to the glass, right? So I said, I'm going to pull back on arm work. They're pretty good. Calves are pretty good. I think if everything looked like my calves and arms, even condition-wise, I'd probably be a pro by now. So I go and I pull back on the arm work, and my arms start growing. Like, what the hell's going on here? So that was my introduction years ago to, oh, even I, with relatively good arms, even I was slightly overtraining arm work. Because think, there's a lot of pushing and pulling going on. Now, I won't get too deep into it, but I just wanted to kind of put that out there as far as that's how I stumbled into it. And then, of course, I saw it with client after client, and I started pulling them back on the work they were doing, which is very difficult to do. Pull a male bodybuilder who wants to have huge arms back from training arms, good luck with that one. But when they do that, that growth happens. So I'll hand it off to you. First I'm going to smash my mic and get all animated.
But I want to people, did you just listen to the gem that Skip said? When you are doing a body part specialization phase, you have to pull back other areas. That's the mistake people do. Oh, I'm just going to add a second arm day in, but nothing else changes. That is a recipe for disaster.
And if you could do that, why wouldn't you just add to everything? Everything that
Correct.
sucks, just do more work and you'd get bigger. It doesn't work that way.
Yes. Yep. And I've had similar experience with different body parts of, just slamming it, took time off, got injured, couldn't train, got sick, and all of a sudden growth happened. You're like, what the hell? So, yep. Here are your biceps, ladies and gentlemen. Bicep is for 2, so there's 2 heads. We have let's start with the long head. This is the really important one. So this is the long head. This is the one that crosses the shoulder joint and it attaches directly to the labrum. And so that is how people will tear the labrum, where that tendon opens it up like a zipper. Unfortunately, I have that on both sides. Its main job is elbow flexion and supination when his pinky's up. But because the long head crosses the shoulder joint, it actually helps with shoulder flexion. Now, it helps most when your arms are by your side. That shoulder flexion mechanical advantage pretty much drops to none once you go above 60 degrees of flexion.
Okay, but you said by your side. So let me clarify with this question, or let me ask this question so you can clarify. Isn't that more in the frontal plane?
So if you're still flexing forward, if you're raising it up, that's still going to be sagittal because you're flexing and extending. So sagittal, you look from the side, S and S, and that's the flexion extension. So arm by your side is like 0 degrees of shoulder flexion, just kind of how when we stand. That has the biggest mechanical advantage there to initiate shoulder flexion, but then that drops off dramatically in your front delt, and to a lesser extent, your upper pec will kick in then.
Okay, let me just be more specific to make sure that I understand, and the viewers.
Yep.
If I'm doing a side lateral, biceps aren't doing much of anything, because even though that head attaches over the shoulder. But if I come up in the front for a front lateral, or does it have to do I actually have to have external rotation to involve the bicep, or does the external rotation, as an example, let's say like a palms down side lateral versus say a palms up?
Yeah, so palms up will create a little bit more mechanical advantage at the shoulder with the bicep, but it's going to be a huge stabilizer on the front of the shoulder, which we're about to go into now, especially with lateral raises.
And as usual, I'm probably ahead of you. I apologize.
Correct. So that's why when we have we did a whole deep dive into front of the shoulder pain and how most bodybuilders are going to have a bicep issue more than a rotator cuff. And when you have a pissed off bicep, lateral raises are hard because we have these hooks that we've talked about on the shoulder blade. If you're not doing them right, you're going to be pinching this, and it's to stabilize. So let me just show the action. So folks, if you didn't realize this, your rotator cuff's on the backside. It attaches to the side of your upper arm known as your humerus. Your biceps, the primary stabilizer on the front, which means yes, shoulder flexion, which would be a press, right? All pressing is shoulder flexion. It's the primary stabilizer. So if you have front of the shoulder pain with pressing but not pulling, it's most likely bicep. Now this guy is your infraspinatus, little tangent. This is the most active rotator cuff muscle when you're pressing, and this can refer to the front of the shoulder. So when anybody comes in with a bicep issue, I treat both the bicep and the infraspinatus, possibly other muscles, but you always want to look at both.
Good point.
Yep. And because why does it cross to the shoulder? Actually, I will save that for when I quit sharing my screen because it'll be easier to demonstrate. Okay. So don't let me forget, because there is a reason why it crosses the shoulder joint. So because it crosses the shoulder joint, in order to fully shorten this muscle, you need to have shoulder flexion. But the long head, not the short head, the long head has that active insufficiency we talked about, where if you're shortening it from both sides, it won't create a ton of tension. Usually that is a fun fact, but if you are having lagging biceps and you're going to do everything else we talked about, and you're doing a lot of like arm overhead curls, maybe not do as many because that can't generate a ton of force.
Right.
Yeah. Then we have the short head or the inner head. Okay. That does not cross the shoulder joint, but it still attaches to your shoulder blade, right? It also attaches where the pec minor attaches in another muscle. This does elbow flexion and palm supination, but it does not help with shoulder flexion because it does not cross. Now, the bro science is if your hands are on a bar and your hands are, out wider, so your hand is wider than your elbow, i.e. abduction, that'll prioritize the long head, while the inner head or the short head, if your hands are in together, it prioritizes that. What was interesting is I could not find any EMG studies that looked at short head versus long head comparing hand width. So, but like anecdotally, we could say that. But does it really matter? Probably not, but that's just a fun fact. Below that, you have a muscle called your brachialis. So, apparently I can't take that away. So that does elbow flexion, especially with your pulling movements, right? So it's going to fire no matter what you do when you're rowing or pulling. I personally feel a little bit more with like a neutral grip.
Agreed.
Yep. I really like putting wrist straps on a preacher curl machine and gripping those and getting your hands as far up by your head as possible. I'll have Chris put a video up. That is killer. If you're holding that contracted position for 2 seconds, your brachialis, your bicep will cramp like nobody's business. This is an extensor, but this is the one that everybody thinks about with forearms called your brachioradialis. Okay, so we'll get into that, but that's why you do your neutral grip and your reverse grip. One other thing to point out, and I'll quit sharing my screen. Your bicep has a tendon, right? That's right there. Okay, but then it has this thing here. It's called your lacertus fibrosus. It's or a bicipital aponeurosis. It is essentially a drier sheet of fascia, and people with very tight forearms who have pain on a preacher curl in this area of the forearm, do not ignore that your body's giving you signals you need to work on that. This will refer back to the tip of your elbow as well as the brachialis where it'll feel like it's exploding pain when you're pressing. And so if you're in a preacher curl, which we'll talk about shortly, and you're having a ton of tension in your forearms to where it's like you feel your forearm like getting a pump and burning and not cramping, but like you'll feel a ton of pressure there. Don't ignore it. That is something you need to address because that's how you tear something, is stuff gets overly tight. And then when you're changing directions from the, the negative to the positive, if you're really explosive, that's how you could tear it. And I think that's really what I need to show for now. So let's get out of here and then talk about the long head. So the long head crosses the shoulder like I talked about. That is so it could stabilize the shoulder and save energy. Because if it didn't, if I did a curl, I would go here, it would just drop into extension, right? So it counteracts it. Same with the long head of the tricep. So they are massive for shoulder stabilization. And people with chronic shoulder issues, I don't know if there's any research on this. This is off the top of my head, but I will purposely get them, even if they're not bodybuilders, say they're a pitcher or a lacrosse player or a rugby player, and they have a history of shoulder instability. I will program a lot of like almost bodybuilding specific arms overhead curls and press downs and tricep extension to train that function at the shoulder. So they're huge for shoulder stability. And that allows you to stabilize the joint, save force, and go from there. So do not neglect the massive role the bicep has. It's more than just this. It is massive shoulder stability. Good so far?
With you so far.
I've got a bunch of EMG data. Obviously, EMG has its limitations, but I figure we'd go through it real quickly, and then we'll talk about how we do things, what we approach. You good with that?
Yep.
Okay.
I like
so, EMGs, easy bar and barbell outperform dumbbell curls for just pure biceps activation. What was interesting in this study that the easy bar and the straight barbell were pretty much the same. And it is job security if people force a straight bar like Arnold did because of the supination. But if you want to have pissed off wrists and elbows and possibly shoulders, force that when you don't have pure supination. So use the easy bar, folks. Okay.
And that's a size issue too.
Mhm,
Because when
correct.
I was younger, that straight bar was great.
Mhm.
And then
Yep.
I started getting bigger. I'm like, I don't know. This is nowhere near as comfortable as it used to be.
Yeah, one of my big tips as we get bigger is you might have to do a lot of bicep training one arm at a time because you need this, this, and this to be aligned. And if you don't, yes, elbows could take it for a while, but if you want to be doing this for decades, you're probably not going to want to put a bunch of undue force in because it is a pure hinge joint. Yes, there's a little bit of rotation, but as we get bigger, it creeps out, it creeps out, it
Sure.
creeps out. Man, that is a recipe for having an issue. So there's that. Now, an incline and a traditional dumbbell curl had biceps activation the whole range of motion, while a preacher curl was mostly in the very bottom, the first 20 degrees.
Okay.
And what's interesting is an incline curl, right? So a lengthened position movement has more hypertrophy up top, while the preacher curl has more hypertrophy down here and even has hypertrophy in the forearms. So just a fun
And that
fact.
goes against the
Mhm.
idea that you cannot specifically train an area of a muscle that is not multi-angle.
Mhm.
And it's funny because when I started out, obviously I was young, I was a teenager. And I strongly felt that you could, and accepted that you could train a specific, preacher curls. Lee Haney to this day will say that preacher curls train or hit the bottom part of the biceps
Mhm.
harder than any other
And
part of the
he
bicep.
was spot on.
And then for years we shifted to where, nope, you're not going to be able to change the shape of that muscle unless it's a multi-angle joint, much like the chest because of the fan and, the delts and things like that. And I'm back. I had started coming back around 5-8 years ago. I'm like, yeah, I'm not buying into this anymore. I'm not buying into this for the main reason of not just seeing the results, because it's difficult as you get older to see the results because the progress and the growth is just not what it was when I was younger.
Mhm.
But the feel
Mhm.
of that muscle, not the tension on the tendon and everything, but the actual feel and you can even look at the pump and feel the pump and go, I've got more blood in the bottom of my bicep than I do. And it may not even be blood. I think it's blood. Part of it is blood, but that you can tell that those fibers after doing preacher curls are more exhausted and you have less contractile force in that area. And then you go and you change to a different exercise and you're like, okay, now I'm feeling it in this area. And the blood supply has almost shifted a bit to the different part of the body. And I'm like, this is going against everything that we think over the last 15, 20 years. But I've come back around kind of full circle to, yeah, I think there's more here than we thought there was.
Yep, I agree. And again, this is top of the pyramid, cherry on top stuff we're talking about. So
Right.
everybody take that with a grain of salt. If you're 160 pounds, don't worry about
Right.
proximal versus distal hypertrophy. Just eat your face off, train really hard. Obviously grip, everybody knows palms up is most bicep, least amount of brachioradialis. Hammer grip is probably in between, right? That's the most balanced. And then reverse grip is the most of the forearms, right? The brachioradialis. This doesn't impact the brachialis like I talked about because it only crosses one joint, and that is going to be a primary elbow flexor and all pulling, which is what Skip was talking about earlier. How, after a certain point, I think you could maintain a hell of a lot of arm size just from your heavy pulling and pressing, especially if you've put the time in. In terms of forearms, because I don't know about you, I always will program a traditional palms up curl in some sort of hammer or reverse grip curl.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
In my biceps training, do you do the same?
I don't do the reverse grip
Okay.
because I have naturally good forearms anyway. And it's funny because I'm 2.5 weeks out from a show. If I'm going to get asked about something by the layman in the elevator, it's either going to be calves or it's going to be forearms. What do you do for your forearms? And it's like, I don't do anything. I train back. I don't use straps. So I'm fortunate in that sense. However, I still will almost always, I'd say this, 2 out of 3 biceps workouts will end with at least a couple sets of hammer curls, maybe rope, cable curls with a low pulley. If I'm just feeling, I want to be a little different and wild today, but I typically finish with some sort of brachialis movement for the reason, not because I feel like I need more forearm development, but I believe it gives a little bit more pop and it helps to lift the bicep. And I don't mean lift as far as like a peak or anything, just if there's something underneath taking up space, anything on top of it has to be pushed up a little bit higher.
Just like your soleus and gastroc.
Yep.
And in the world of strongman, hammer curls are done a ton to strengthen that bicep tendon, because what is the biggest risk for strongmen? Bicep tears with all the carries they have to do.
Sure.
Right? That's why you hear of bodybuilders all the time. I tried to, do an Atlas stone pickup with the strongman at my gym and I tore it. Right. Or I've had several patients, unfortunately, tear their bicep bowling. So once again,
Funny you said that. I had 3 in a year, 3 in 1 year. I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
So if you're getting tension here, do not ignore that. Your body's giving you a sign that we've got to work on releasing this tissue and that fascia. Also, just a little gem, when the fascia is super tight, if you scrape it or cup it, it'll sound and feel like gravel, right? And then healthier fascia that's not as bound up won't feel that way. This is purely anecdote. I will say it does seem, if I could get a bodybuilder's fascia to not feel and sound gravelly when treating, that muscle grows better. I think it's because the fascia is so tight, it's having a hard time expand. I think that was the whole reason behind FST7 with Jay Cutler and all that, it was just brilliant marketing. But there is something to that, because I will say my chest was just gravel. I religiously got it. It released. My chest started growing. I've given up on my biceps. I've literally treated that fascia every single day for 92 days in a row and nothing changed. And I said, I will come up with a better use of my time. But when I released down here, a lot of my bicep elbow issues went away. So once again, if you're having tightness down here, that could cause a lot of elbow issues.
Now, for clarity, though, wasn't FST7 Hani Rambod?
Yep.
Okay.
He just did it with Jay, and that's how it blew up. Yep. Yep. And then obviously forearms, pronated overhands, brachioradialis, wrist curls are your flexors, reverse wrist curls are your extensors. And then there's no research on it, but I'm a huge believer in rice bucket for anybody who lifts. Of bucket full of rice, working your hands in it. If you could work your way up to do each hand for 3 to 5 minutes straight. I hate the term bulletproofing. It's nails on a chalkboard. Maybe if I use terms like that with my social media, I would have a bigger following. But if you're going to bulletproof your wrist and your elbows, rice bucket's one of the single best things you could do. And it is brutal. Like people, oh, it's silly. No. I challenge you to set a timer for 2 minutes your first time and keep working your hand the entire time at the same pace. You'll get so pumped in your forearms. Your forearms will look like skips. It'll be awesome. So you could live vicariously through them. But yeah, that's a really big one. And then just 3 more quick points and we could have fun discussions. Yes, on paper in a vacuum, biceps grow better from the stretch mediated hypertrophy. Okay. On paper in a vacuum. One study, now remember there's limitation with studies, but for 10 weeks they did a barbell preacher curl, which was a lengthened position movement, right? Because most of the tension is in the bottom. And then they did a cable preacher curl. And because of the cable continuous tension, they could generate a lot of tension up top. So that was their shortened position movement. And at the end of the weeks, as long as training volume was equated for, they grew the same. So there was no statistical difference of doing a barbell versus a cable preacher curl. Again, 10 weeks, there's limitations, but I just think just train the arm. I have some certain opinions of how we should go about setting up arm stuff that we'll talk about, but that was interesting. We obviously know that, a curl is going to have more bicep activation than an overhand row, but a chin up actually will have biceps activation even higher than a dumbbell curl, which is interesting, right? And so I think chin-ups have gone the way of the dinosaur in bodybuilding, and that's a great 1-2 punch because, yes, you're getting, your back, but you're getting a huge stimulus to those biceps. Just be mindful of what your wrist range of motion is. Don't force it, but I think chin-ups could be a very underutilized addition to overall just upper body pulling development. And
I've
strength.
said that for years. I think it's a great finisher, but it depends on how you do them.
Correct.
So I tend to pull, and I don't pull deep into my chest, but I pull close to my face and I kind of pull to the chin. I use it as a finisher. You don't even have to get full stretch at the top. Get close to the top, pull in. And you're right. Sometimes if it's just a regular straight bar, but if you get an easy curl bar with a slight bend and it's in that, you got to kind of work with it because it's an individual feel type thing of how wide, how narrow. You can go too narrow and it doesn't work all that great, but it's a great finisher. And I won't say that I was laughed at for that advice, but it was quickly discarded by a lot of people. And I had to laugh. I'm like, well, okay, don't use it then. But the reality is it's there. And I didn't know that it compared or that there was more involvement than a dumbbell curl. So I'm happy to hear that, but it's a great finisher, I think. If you're not sure, try it. And
you could do it on a lat pull down even.
Right?
Like, yeah. So just, it's that motion. Yep. So there's all the EMG, but I talked enough.
Well, I've got a lot of thoughts on the bicep training and as far as programming too. One of the big things is like I touched on earlier, I think that it's very easy to overtrain the arms. So I don't think a lot of volume is necessary. I don't think you need to train them terribly heavy. I think it's dangerous. And when I say dangerous, I mean creating a vulnerability or risk for injury. And we're focused more on biceps. I would say it's equally as risky with biceps as it is for triceps. I like to go into my arm workout with biceps first. Used to be triceps, but biceps for me warm up and get blood in the area so that my elbows don't hurt when I start triceps. They are literally ready to go. Couple sets of cable press downs and I'm gold, ready for triceps, versus the other way around. Every now and then I'll train arms a little bit heavier, but when I say heavier, I'm talking rep ranges of like I'll never drop before. If I drop below an 8, there's been a really bad calculation. So it's a 10 to 12, it's a 10 to 15. If I'm going to go heavier, it's later in the workout as fatigue has set in. There's plenty of blood. There's, fatigue and blood, I guess. That way, if the reps do fall a little bit lower, I don't think it's as much of a risk. So when it comes to bicep, look, I'm not terribly fancy and I don't change up a lot of variety. Normally, anybody who's worked with me knows I'm a variety guy. I am big on changing exercises anytime you can change exercises, pretty much workout to workout if you can. And if you can't change them workout to workout, at least change the sequence. I do feel like if you take the same exercises, but you do them in a different order or a different fashion, that is creating still a slightly different stimulus. I'm okay with the people who want to keep the same rotations. There are exercises that work great for people and feel great, just as there are for me. I'm not going to force or recommend anybody force exercises strictly for variety. I'm just saying I'm a variety guy. When it comes to arms, not as much variety. because they're not a big priority for me. So I'm getting in there to train them, but I'm getting in there to get the blood flow, get the contractions, train them. But as we touched on earlier, I think that once you have put in a lot of years of training, I think that heavy pushing and pulling for back and shoulders provides a lot, arguably more than direct arm training, more growth. And I'm not just saying maintaining size. I literally think that once you get to a certain level of development, you could maintain that size without ever training arms directly. But I also think you can grow your arms that way because you've advanced to the point. I mean, think about it. If you're going to do, say, 100-pound cable press downs, how does that relate, or how does that compare to doing 315 on the bench? People will say, no, there's not that much tricep involvement. Don't train for a month. Go in and train heavy, say bench press as an example, and come away and tell me that your triceps aren't ridiculously sore. There's a lot of tricep involvement in those compound pressing exercises, overhead presses too. Same with barbell rows, T-bar rows, and you don't have to be under grip. They can be an overhand grip or a neutral grip. There's still a ton of, and even lat pulls for that matter, lat pulls or chins. There's a lot of bicep involvement and of course brachialis involvement as well. It's going to depend a lot on hand position, grip, what your grip is, the position of the grip, how wide it is, how narrow it is. I get it. There's a lot of variations there. But you're hitting your arms very hard. And that's why the vast majority of people overtrain their arms. When you're training back, you're still hitting biceps. So if you think, the answer to growing my arms is to do more direct arm involvement, think about it. You're hitting back once a week. But if you hit biceps just once a week, you're actually hitting biceps twice a week. If you move to a second bicep workout, you're now hitting biceps 3 times a week. If you're having problems with arm growth, whether it's triceps or biceps, before you start adding more work or more frequency, cut back. Part of that reason is because it is difficult on arm, or more difficult to progress in strength because the increments, the weights aren't as big. It's like a leg press versus a leg curl. You're going to be able to progress and see that progression on a leg press or a squat long before you're going to see it on a leg curl, because you're dealing with a lot more weight and you're dealing with a lot more muscles that are moving that way. Side lateral is a good example. If you can jump 10 pounds on a side lateral and those side laterals look the same, that's a hell of a jump. That's good. The same thing with the dumbbell curl, a barbell curl, a preacher curl. And I wanted to touch on this. I'm glad that I brought up the example of a preacher curl. I'm more of a fan with the preacher curl, and I call them Larry Scott curls. I think that the Larry Scott curl is different than a preacher curl. The reason is, and people will see this on the screen, the upper arm is this is my definition of it. And I cannot find this anywhere, but I'm telling you, I've been in this game a long time, and I think that this is the difference. The Larry Scott curl is the upper arm is pretty much perpendicular to the floor, where a preacher curl, there's an angle. This preacher curl, or Larry Scott curl, gives a much better range of motion. You get the full stretch in the bottom position without it being as much of a vulnerability, quite frankly, because the more you angle that preacher curl, the more stress. And I'm assuming that we're using a barbell. Obviously you can use the machines. That's different because then the leverage, you could do them straight out, the old Icarian one. But when you're talking about a barbell, the more that preacher curl is, that angle changes, there's a lot of pressure on that tendon in the bottom position, and not as much at the top. But if you're going straight up and down, you're not even breaking a sticking point at the top. you're going to cut that weight in half. So you're going to get a hell of a contraction at the top that you can't break sticking point. You're going to get a hell of a stretch in the bottom position. I train in a 24/7 kind of old school garage gym. We don't have a preacher. We have a preacher curl machine, but we don't have a regular preacher curl. So what I do is I take the Gen 1 Icarian hack squat, and the picture's up now. People will see it. Put a pad over the platform, folding chair, and do my preacher curls on that. And it's twofold. Number one, the angle is steep, but number two, there is, how do I explain this? You'll see it, but I want to be able to explain it. There's less of a vulnerability in the bottom position because the back of my wrist will hit the platform in the bottom position. And some people will argue, oh, you're resting. I don't rest for nothing. I touch it, I come up. The point is, though, is there's less of a vulnerability there because let's just say I fail. It forces that weight to not be as heavy. And I'm telling you, it's 40 pounds, 50 pounds. If I'm feeling real strong in the middle of the off season, it might be 60 pounds. If I get over that, it's just not working and it doesn't feel right. It literally feels too heavy. So with preacher curls, I'm big on mechanics anyway, but I'm even bigger on mechanics when it comes to preacher curl. I will gladly give up poundage for mechanics on a preacher curl. I want them to be flawlessly perfect. And it's funny because I'll go in and I'll see where the pin is from some dude who just left. And I'm like, how? I couldn't move that if I had to. And my arms are twice as big as that guy's arms.
Performance chiropractic and sports medicine in the Houston Bay Area, telemedicine and nutrition coaching all over Texas. And if you're not in Texas, don't worry. You still do consults through the educatedmeathead.com, where you also find workout programs, seminar recordings, and online courses.
So I cut it way down, but I've done the same thing, say with seated calves where, you know, the guy comes in and he bounces with 4 plates and I've got 2 plates on there and all of a sudden I'm driving my heels down. He's like, oh, you're only using 2 plates? Yeah, I'm driving my heels all the way down and all the way up. So again, mechanics. And I think mechanics obviously is important on everything. Perfect mechanics, flawless mechanics, maybe not flawless and perfect. Not a good example. Super tight. Because if you get flawless, you can go to the point where you've gone too far and then you're losing mechanical tension. There is a balance there. But the point is you should have the prettiest reps in the gym, in my opinion. Long before you're worried about how much weight you're moving. You'll end up with a better physique. We're talking about arms, so you'll end up with better arms, but you'll end up with a better physique if you have the prettiest reps in that gym. My opinion.
Love it. So I took some notes.
Okay.
Let's go over what I agree with, and then we'll go over what I disagree with, which will be fun. Yeah, I always do biceps first, just like do some leg curls before your squatting motion. Your joints will help you. Changing the exercise order totally changes the workout. And I agree, preacher curls don't over hyperextend and explode up. Like that's such a vulnerability. Be careful when you're doing them, right? Are we powerlifters who are trying to make a heavyweight feel light, or are we bodybuilders trying to make a lightweight feel heavy, right? So just be careful with that. Yeah, you and I disagree slightly, which is great. Because I know, you're the variety guy. I am a stick to the same movement to progress, but I will have 2 or 3 different rotations of workout. So you're, so it's similar but different approach, right?
Right.
Yep. So there's
still variety there.
Yes, there's our minutia, but I really like riding the wheels till they fall off on a movement. Once I would say if a third workout, 1 workout's not enough if you didn't improve to trash the movement. 2, maybe look at, what's your sleep, stress, nutrition like. But if it's 3 workouts in a row and you didn't progress the movement, kick it to the curb and grab something new and restart that.
See, and that's the difference in methodology there, because I'm just not I'm in those years where I'm not focused on progressive overload.
Yep.
It's not that I don't want to progress. It's that I'm training to failure anyway. So maybe the reps are a little slower. Remember, and for those who don't know, you're controlling all these variables, metronome, tempo of and I mean, I had told you before, I'm like, that's got to go in the trash. I'd take a basket weaving first. Not because it doesn't work, but because I feel like it's just way too much on my brain. I would be cloudy and I would be like, oh, I miscounted. It would be distracting to me.
Yeah.
But that's just the difference in methodology. At the end of the day, we're doing the same thing, or we're taking two different paths to get to the top of the mountain. That's all it really is.
Which is freaking awesome because there's no one
exactly
way, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So you got to find more. Also, what do you enjoy?
Yeah, there
right?
you go.
I enjoy my way.
Yep.
You would hate my way. I don't.
We're never going to train together.
Exactly.
Dr. Marv.
Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah.
You'll be like, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm training chest today.
Yeah.
I'm training chest. Oh, I meant back.
Yeah. Yeah. So I do that. And then, I do. We're talking biceps today, but I think people should keep in a long head tricep specific movement. But then, your heavy presses are going to do the vast majority. I'm with you. I think biceps grow significantly better with continuous tension, a lot of control, a lot of the squeezing. So a lot of my programs, I will say, we're not doing hardcore progressive overload for biceps. I want progressing your contractions and your feels. So the logbook does not need to be beat, because what happens? People start throwing around 100, 120 pound barbell. They're using their entire body to do it. No. So abs and biceps, and to a lesser extent, maybe some rear delt movements. I will even put in my programs. Progressive overload is not the number one thing here. It's the feel and the squeeze. Now, triceps, I think, rack totally different, where progressive overload, heavy compound movements is your key to massive triceps with the long head isolation movement. But I think once most people quit throwing around way too heavy dumbbells or barbells with curls, right? And quit using your front delt, right? Like you have that control. It's amazing what you could accomplish. And look at, again, it's dangerous to take your training cues from IFBB pros because they are genetic freaks.
Right.
But the vast majority of them are curling with 25 to 35 pound weights, period. So
these days, not in the old school
correct.
days.
Yeah.
But
Now people, what about Johnny Jackson or Branch Warren? They're mutants. If you've been training that way and you don't look like them, it's not working. So,
right.
So anyways,
well, and your point, I think it's important to note that the fact that the vast majority of pros these days don't train their arms heavy makes me question whether the old pros needed to train their arms heavy anyway.
Yep.
So really the new or the next generation is kind of going, we're kind of proving that there's no sense creating a vulnerability here that doesn't need to happen. In fact, I'd go so far as to say it backs up what I said about the heavier compound movements, pushing and pulling, providing the vast majority of growth and or maintaining growth. But I say adding growth once you're kind of a seasoned lifter, bodybuilder.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yep. Completely agree. And then I will cycle even training volume in a training blast, right? You might hit arms 2 weeks in a row, and that third week you might not do a direct arm day, right? You got to, that's the hard part of learning your biofeedback. Or I think the best arm growth I had within recent years, 1 week was progressive overload rest pause. The second week was Dr. Scott's pump set. So no progressive overload, just be a meathead. And then the third week was blood flow restriction, arms only. The fourth week was off. And then I restarted it the next month. And because you had that undulating stimulus, allowing lots of recovery, right? There's really only 1 day a month of hardcore progressive overload for biceps. And the rest was pump and squeeze or BFR or rest. And arms exploded, as well as everybody who was doing that training routine because your arms get so much work. They get so much work. And if you're somebody who's been hitting your arms religiously for months and months on end, just trust us, take 2 weeks off of no direct arm training and see what happens.
You'll come back stronger. But I'm telling you, and you know this too, there are at least 10 people listening right now who go, no, I got to train my arms more frequently. It's like, whatever, just do whatever,
correct.
like whatever you're going to do. It's continuing to not work.
Correct. I am big on changing your elbow positioning though. meaning I want to curl with your elbow in front of you. I want a lot of your work with your elbow by your side, which so in front would be shortened, side would be mid-range, and then behind would be lengthened, right? So I am a big believer versus grip widths. And I'm sorry, using a barbell and a dumbbell curl with your elbow by your side is essentially the same movement. Yes, the EMG says the barbell is superior to the dumbbell, but it is so damn similar. I would much rather you, if you're going to do more than one movement, do, and I typically, like we talked about, start with shortened. So if you want science-based hardcore meathead biomechanics, I'll have Chris show the shortened position for a long head curl movement, which looks kind of wacky, and the shortened position movement for a shortened head movement, right? So those are the biomechanically optimal movements, right? But fine. That is a finisher. That's not going to be your meat and potatoes. So you could do that. The Dr. Mike Israetel curls that are everybody's saying is the greatest since sliced bread. He took that from Vince Garanda. We've got to talk about Vince on the show. The dude was so far ahead of his time. So, he's
I'm going against those curls, though. I'm just telling you.
Yeah. I want to try him, but I don't trust my shoulder, and I've never done them that way. So maybe if my shoulder
incline, I'm cool with.
Yep.
But that's a
big stretch. Yep. So you got to be careful. But again, though, I will use that. I use that with a Highlands game athlete who was having shoulder pain when he was doing the sheath toss, which is essentially a big bag with a fork and they throw it over. We actually did those Vince style to get him to stabilize in a shoulder extended position, and it took away a lot of his pain. So
I don't doubt.
Yeah. So there's like a lot of cool rehab stuff you could do now that you understand the long head of the bicep and the tricep are massive shoulder stabilizers. Train that function.
Yep.
But again, the vast majority should be mid-ranged, maybe elbow behind. And I will usually do my back day. I'll do one forearm movement, so hammer or reverse, and one bicep movement, and that's it. Because I've already blasted the hell out of my arms.
So 3.
So you do your back day, then I do one traditional curl and one hammer or reverse curl movement.
Oh, okay,
so
two
total.
Right.
Yep. And then if we have a direct arm day, yes, then I will do, shoulders, biceps, triceps, forearms together.
That's how I am. Side delts, biceps, triceps.
Yep.
And it's my last day of the week because they're not as much of a priority. And I'm usually dead, especially now in prep, by the time that comes around. So, there are times where I hit the wall before I can finish triceps. So there's that. And you'll see here too on this exercise, it's funny that you mentioned this because I'm similar with changing the elbow position. And, this exercise here is the double pulley cable. And I know that you're not good with left and right, but I am. I'm a big fan, left, right, left, right. And what I do is I use it as an opener and I will stand back. I will do my curls regular straight, and you'll see here. And then some days I'll come in and I'll almost come to the opposite shoulder or the opposite cheek. And that I strongly feel is more of a long head. That's where I feel it. Long head movement with that contraction. Here's the caveat. Go too heavy, you lose it. So biceps, and this is important it is for me anyway. And other clients have said the same thing. You can go too heavy and lose that feel and that contraction. And I would argue that as soon as you lose it, you're too heavy, don't go any heavier. Now, if you're doing barbell curls or dumbbell curls, okay, that's more of like a meat and potatoes, kind of what I call in my team skip training protocol, a growth stuff or a growth set. Okay, cool. But not going to lose that feel and that contraction, especially in an opener. But for a cable type, I call them stretch and squeeze exercises. I'm not going to lose. I'm not going to go so heavy that I lose that feel. I think that's the green room. That's what I referred to before. A green room is like a reference that surfers use when they catch that perfect wave and everything is going perfectly. I use that reference, the green room, for that perfect set that everything is fluid. Everything is even. It doesn't feel ridiculously heavy. You're just in the space while you're doing the set. You're like, I wish every set could be like this. It's literally flawless. Like everything is just going exactly how it's supposed to go.
How often do you have that happen?
As long as I've trained it, and I will say this, can't remember the last time I had a bad workout. I know if I'm gonna have bad workout and I'm not set up to go into the gym and I'll wait a day because I've got that much experience. But I still say green room sets are 20-25%.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's a high ratio. That's impressive.
I was even thinking, I'm like, I could go 10 to 20. It's not very high is more my point. 1 out of 5.
Which is a great point, is like, we are always trying to get better no matter how long. Like, I've done maybe 5 perfect sets my entire life in terms of
no kidding,
absolute failure. Like, and I tried myself in that.
Remember though, you were in diapers.
Yeah.
When I started this.
Yeah, correct. But like, yeah, but yeah, that's something cool to chase. And then it seems simple for us, but remember, folks, you want to be squeezing your biceps on both the positive and the negative. Okay, we're not just moving weight. You're trying to visualize taking this point and pulling it up to here and then reverse that. Because a lot of people just move it. I'm like, no, squeeze, flex, and then curl. And they're like, oh, I'm like, yeah, that's what bodybuilding is. Is the weights are an instrument. You are visualizing shortening and lengthening the muscle. Focus on that. Don't focus on what your hands are doing, and you will be blown away. Your pump will be better. You're going to have to lower the load by at least 10%. I'm just going to tell you that right now to stay in your rep range. That's a beautiful thing.
Yep. Stretch and squeeze, flex the muscle, and just happen to be holding a weight or resistance at the same time versus I'm moving this weight. And 99% of people look at it this way. I'm moving this weight from point A to point B.
Yep.
I'll do it with control because, I don't want anybody to call me out on social media. But if you approach it psychologically from I'm just flexing this muscle while holding a weight, night and day. Night and day.
One thing I almost forgot about is I'm big on a thumbless grip for reverse grip or hammer. Do you have any preference?
Man, I don't know if I thought, okay, let's see. Reverse. I don't do reverse grip curls.
Yeah,
you
said you don't really do them. Yeah.
No,
but
I don't
hammer grip, I really think taking the thumb out of it makes it a little bit harder on the forearm.
I don't do that. But one thing that I do with dumbbells is I will hold the dumbbell where the dumbbell is flat against the top of my hand. I don't hold it in the middle of the dumbbell.
Yep.
Because I don't want to squeeze the shit out of it. I want brachialis more than I want my grip strength or my flexor muscles to do the work. So I put the flat part of the dumbbell to that so that I could arguably, I'm hardly even squeezing. I'm holding the dumbbell enough that I don't drop it. Let's put it that way.
So I'm the opposite where I don't want it resting. So you have to challenge your grip strength. But by doing thumbless though, it really takes a lot of that out. And you want the ultimate forearm strength challenge. You do an offset kettlebell hammer curl. Oh, with a thumbless grip. Oh, good. 15 pounds is going to smoke you. It is super underrated in bodybuilding, right? We don't do much with kettlebells. That offset grip, holy cow. And then I'll even have a mechanical drop set where you start with it normal, then you flip it, and then you get rid of that, and then you use a dumbbell. It's brutal.
The only exercise I've ever done kettlebells with are side laterals. It's the only thing that I like because the weight hangs lower than my hand. That's the only thing. And I said before, when I do side laterals with regular dumbbells, I limp wrist them. That way it's almost like my wrists are hanging. The dumbbell is hanging and I'm pulling from here. Well, I'm pulling from my elbow, but it's coming more from my wrist than it is the actual dumbbell itself. So
I dig it.
Anyway, I'll just do this real quick because I didn't give an example of like my sequence of my exercises. I will open, like I said, with more of a cable type movement. That's just me for openers with damn near every muscle group. Then I move to kind of I call it gross stuff or gross sets. It's likely going to be an easy curl bar. Can't remember the last time I curled over 90 pounds. And I can go back to when I was 27 and didn't even weigh 200 pounds and wasn't lean. and I would curl 125, 135. My arms are substantially better than they were then. Then I'll move to some type of preacher curl. It might be the Gen 1 Icarian, pad, my kind of makeshift preacher, or it'll be a preacher curl machine. And one thing that I would, it's again, elbow position based on that particular preacher curl machine. And they're all different. I'm not a fan of the hammer strength preacher curl at all. I think it is, if hammer strength got any of their equipment wrong, they got that one wrong. I don't think the mechanics, I don't think that the resistance curve, everything, I think it's all just bleh. I don't like it. But old school, I even like the one that's straight out in front, the old school one where you're curling. I love it. Love it. Again, not a heavy exercise. The other thing that I want to point out with preacher curls is, especially if you're using a barbell, if you could break a sticking point, don't. Because as soon as you break the sticking point, you're resting. So hold that top instead of collapsing. Hold that peak. As soon as it starts to let go back down. Constant tension. You're going to do constant tension on legs. You're going to do constant tension on everything else. You don't need to let your biceps rest. And then I'm going to finish with some type of break hours. It's typically a hammer dumbbell curl.
Okay.
So there's not much there. There's an opener. There's 2 regular growth sets, if you will, or growth up, and then 1 to 2 sets of hammer strength. Again, because I don't need a lot of forearm development anyway, but I do want to hit the brachialis a little bit. Add that added bit of blood flow. Lift the bicep a little bit. And then get my ass to triceps. Simple.
Yeah.
Not overcomplicated.
I will say garage gym trainers, add a light resistance band to your free weight curls and it'll dramatically improve the resistance profile. Right? Because it's going to be hardest here and easier as I go up there. So if you add even a light band to your free weight curls, it's a totally different movement.
I know I've done it with the resistance coming from out in front of me. Instead of down.
Yep.
So play with that a little bit. And I've said before, not a big fan of resistance bands. To me, they're laborious and they're a pain in the ass. But there are a few exercises like the dumbbell pullover, Meadows' version of a dumbbell pullover. It's genius.
Yep.
And so there are some exercises that I am a fan of. If it happens to be sitting right there and I don't have to track one down. Good deal. I think we covered. Is there anything else to cover there? If there is, I can't think of what it is. Good deal. That's a lot of information on biceps.
Have the guts to try something new, which means less work, and see what happens.
Yep. Absolutely. And if it doesn't work, go right back to what you were doing before. But know this, what you were doing before wasn't working anyway.
You got nothing to lose.
You didn't lose any time. You just saved the effort and the energy in the gym to see if not doing the work would help you progress and help
I'll
with
have
recovery.
a lot of people spike their arm training volume so much they start developing tendonitis issues. So you got to be mindful of that. We don't want training spikes. We're going to go in depth on that next time we record. So I've got some good data. So that's a little cliffhanger for the next recording.
Yep, exactly. I will smash that. If you want to optimize your bicep training, the first thing you need to do is pull back on your training because most people are overtraining. That's number 1. And I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to leave it there because we're not talking about specific exercises really. I'm going to smash on doing less arm work, specifically biceps for this topic. To see if you're going to grow, because I will say that 99 out of 100 people will progress better by doing less.
Yeah, I'll have to smash it because I literally changed my personal training and writing programs for people. I used to do 3 movements for biceps at the end, or 3 to 4 movements after back day. Oop, that went way down. And then there'll be times, I really like the cyclical approach of, do a couple weeks in a row, take a couple weeks off. You're going to have to do that balancing act. So I will smash the same thing that you did.
I don't see nothing wrong
I believe. Am I on the hot seat?
You are on the hot seat.
I'm on the hot seat.
And doing something totally different. So I think people will either love or hate it.
Okay.
I do have a question for you, though, and this will dictate how I ask you all these questions.
Okay.
Are you somebody who is up to date with current Major League Baseball players? Or are you more of a baseball historian type guy?
I'm a lover of baseball, but I am not as involved with the data. Like I'm sometimes not always up to date on the latest movements of specific players. Sometimes I'll be like, oh shit, he's playing for Philadelphia now. You know what I mean? That sort of thing.
Yeah, but you're familiar with modern day players.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you magically become the GM of your favorite team and you get a blank check. You've got to put together a roster of whatever player you want.
Okay.
Meaning, if you could get any, so who is the best first baseman in the game right now?
Oh, damn. Should have gone with historians. Who would I want or who's the best? Because I'd want Rizzo on first. He's just too much of a character.
Yeah. So why don't we do who would you want on your
I mean, I'd go with Rizzo first. Yeah.
Okay. So second.
Ryan Sandberg.
Cat.
I'm going historian there. No,
Okay.
yeah, only because I modern day second basemen, I'm not sure I can call.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't call. I would say Ryan Sandberg because I was a huge Cubs fan growing up when they sucked in the 80s. Devon DeJesus at short. No, anyway.
Okay, so third.
Third's a no-brainer. My guy from the Rockies. Come on. That's terrible. Golden Glove forever, straight out of high school. Played straight out of high school. Holy crap. Come on, help me. I was with the Rockies for 15 years. Or 10, 12 years. Oh, that's terrible. It's right there on the tip of my tongue. Come back to it. I'll get it.
Yep.
Sorry.
Rockies. He plays currently?
Not with the Rockies currently, but he started with them and now he's killing it. I don't even know. He was St. Louis.
Let's see. Chat GPT says Vinny Castilla?
No,
that's not right. I know it's I know who I could see his face, but I don't know his name. Anyways,
yeah,
it'll come to you. Shortstop.
Arenado. It took me a second. I just anyway, Arenado. Just the meanest, arguably probably the best, in my opinion, best third, but he'll end up being the best third baseman probably ever to play the game. Just that's bad that praise. I couldn't remember his name.
Yeah. I love him so much, but forgot his name. Shortstop.
Without the injuries, I'd say Story. I'm coming back to remember, I was a Rockies fan for 21 years. We had season tickets and everything else, but he's just a mess of injuries. That's a tough one.
Catcher.
The rocket arm, Contreras, the Contreras brothers, but Wilson Contreras. No, the bazooka for an arm. Just it's an absolute fucking laser cannon.
Nice. Right field.
You're gonna get into the outfield, you're gonna have a hard time here. Yeah, I'm gonna have a hard time with the outfield. Okay. Obviously I'm gonna go with Bryce Harper all day long in center. That's a no-brainer. Who's gonna say otherwise, right? Yep. But you get into left and right field, that's a tough one.
Where's Trout these days? Is he center or is he right or left?
God, I don't even. Honestly, I don't know.
Okay, you could only choose one player, Harper or Trout. Who would you choose to start your team around? Harper.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And I mean, you're not going to lose either way. But
correct.
But I say Harper. Okay. I know a lot of people say he's overpaid, but he's paid. He's paid well because he's a badass. Yeah.
Starting pitcher.
I'd go with the guy from Pittsburgh. Was it? I might screw up his name. Scales. Blah, blah, blah. I'm in Pittsburgh in 2.5 weeks for Nationals. The day after We have tickets right behind the dugout for the
Oh,
Pirates
awesome.
game. And my thing is, my bucket list, I'll never get there, I don't think, unless I win the Powerball. But I want to get to every major league stadium, and I've only been to 8. So this one will be 9, which is more than most, I think. But I'm excited to see PNC Park. It's actually only 3 blocks from where the venue is, right downtown Pittsburgh. So
nice.
I'm excited for that. But yeah, I'd go with the he's just killing it.
Okay.
Just absolutely.
And then who's your closer?
I'd probably have to go. You know what? That's a tie. I'd probably go with what's his ass who's retired, the Hall of Famer, New York Yankees.
Mariano?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's only because I can't, honestly, I don't think I've watched a game this year outside of spring training. I've just had too much going on with the prep and with other things and with business. But typically by this time, I've been to 12, 15 games at down, to watch the Marlins. We hop the Bright Line right outside the door and go down to Miami. So
nice.
I haven't been to one yet.
Manager. I feel like this is the hardest.
Yeah, it is. There's just a lot of good managers, and currently that would be a tough one. I mean, I'd almost go historically on this one. I mean, I'd probably go old school with like Sparky Anderson or something along that line. Being originally from Michigan, as I was more of a Cubs fan, but nonetheless, I was halfway between Chicago and Detroit, so I did see a lot of the Tigers play too. But and make no mistake, I don't want to leave Verlander out of the rotation either, even though he's getting older. That's I
feel like, no, I'm not a huge baseball guy, but I feel like he inspired the fear that Randy Johnson did back in the day.
Yeah, I don't know as much fear, but certainly absolutely respect. I mean, that he's clearly incredibly well respected, but Randy Johnson was, I mean, that was straight out fear.
Yeah.
That was right up there with Nolan Ryan, because I'd say,
that's a better comparison.
Yeah, I mean, only because Nolan will he'll throw at your fucking teeth.
Yeah.
and he'll do it 3 times in a row, and 2 of them will be on purpose. The other one will be he just didn't have the control.
Yeah.
It just, that guy was next level, but I mean, there's just so many pitchers. There's Maddox, there's, from the past that, and I think closers, Rivera's the exception, I guess, but even Chapman, they throw real hard, but I like someone with that control, paint the corners.
See, I'm a Trevor guy because of Padres, and he would throw 10 changeups in a row.
Yeah.
And just strike out the side. I'm like, good God.
Yeah. And in Colorado, we had guys who were throwing in the 70s.
Yeah. Yep.
But they had such control. It was just crazy. It was really crazy to watch.
Yep. Awesome. All right. You're off the hot seat. Well
I appreciate that.
I think we'll just do one listener question. I think that secondary posit's going to take too much time. And we're already over an hour. So just a nice, fun little question from Roan Ranger. In regards to the last episode, he said, I primarily train at home and my kids enjoying coming into play. What are your thoughts on allowing kids 9 and 3 years old to do functional type training? Not powerlifting or Olympic lifting, just pull-ups, playing with a lat pull, low row, kettlebell swings, these kind of things.
100%. Absolutely. No question. It's an antiquated, I don't want to say fear-mongering thought, but it's an antiquated, outdated, oh my God, their epiphyses haven't closed yet. It's just such a bad, sometimes we're just so ridiculous with the way we think. It's illogical. Anything physical, strength training, it's great.
Yeah. If kids were that fragile, you and I would not be sitting here. Well, because our ancestors
who's more fragile, them or us?
Exactly.
I mean, come on.
Yeah. No, and I love that stuff. We do know, getting your kids to be active. What is it? Ages 6 to 13 off the top of my head is the most important for motor learning. So now's the time. Like, if you want the single best thing to help your kid be a stud athlete, get them in gymnastics.
Or just to not be obese like every other kid in this world. Get them away from their room. Get them away. I have a grandson. Love it. Just adorable. My oldest grandson. He's like almost 15. And or is 15. Soon as they got him out of his room and got him playing sports, the kid lost like 25 pounds, looks completely different, is active and excited and motivated, where before he was just from staring at the video games and just being isolated. Get them out, whether it's sports, whether it's lifting, getting them to do something physical that feeds their confidence and their self-esteem. Man, there's nothing better for a kid.
That's the big thing I was going to say, is the amount of confidence you could inspire in a kid is incredible. Yeah, my nieces and nephews are stud athletes right now, and their confidence levels, just as human beings, is through the roof. Yeah. That you don't get otherwise. So 100%. Yeah, we know for a fact you will not stunt your child's growth. The amount of force it would take is astronomical. Nobody's doing that. It's perfectly safe. Multiple mainstream journals and stuff say it's perfectly safe. Just be smart. I jokingly and I lovingly call them motor morons. So like, obviously you're not going to teach your 5-year-old how to snatch, but you would absolutely get them to learn how to suitcase carry or like kind of deadlift a kettlebell, because they're only going to have to move 6 inches, right? Like, get them out there, get them confidence, teach them this now, because that is lifespan versus health span. Yeah. And you're teaching your kid early. Let's focus on health span, not just lifespan.
And if they do want to snatch, let's just say that they're, you're an Olympic lifter and they find interest in that. Okay. It's just a very complicated movement.
Correct. So start with the PVC pipe, just like you did when you learned, and go from there. But yeah, absolutely love the idea of that. So yeah, get the kids active as soon as possible.
100%. We got to get to getting. This is Skip and Dr. Marv splitting. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to like, subscribe, share, and ring the bell. It should sound a little something like this. And if you didn't like the show, just pretend you did. Like, subscribe, share, and ring the bell anyway. We want to hear your questions, feedback, and any ideas you have about future topics in the YouTube comments section. If your question or topic is chosen and used on the show, you'll go into a drawing, and we'll randomly choose one winner at the end of each month who will receive a 5-pound bag of Team Skip protein from TrueNutrition.com. Be sure to use the TrueNutrition.com link in the closing credits to save 10% on not just Team Skip protein, but every supplement they sell. Not only do I use my Team Skip protein with my clients, but other top prep guys have their clients use my protein because it's that good. Dr. Marv, how could someone reach out to you if they have questions or if they want to work with you?
I am most active on Instagram at dr.marvin.saysdc. My office, Coastal Performance Chiropractic, is in the Houston Bay Area. I do telemedicine and nutrition coaching for all of Texas. If you're not in Texas, go to theeducatedmehead.com, where you could do consults, workout programs, seminars, the whole 9 yards.
If you have too much skin, and by skin, I mean body fat, I've had 4 people reach out to me in the last month thinking that I'm talking about fixing their loose skin.
Oh.
Now, I know how to help with that too, but bizarre. I've not had that happen in I don't know how many years, but 4 in 1 month. So if you have too much skin, AKA you're too fat, I'm your guy. Go to teamskip.com and you'll find all my contact information, including Team Skip merch like this sweatshirt. Of course, you can follow me on Instagram at Intense Muscle as well. Keep in mind that this is a team of 3 and not 2. Chris is the enigma behind the scenes, and he's responsible for visuals and graphics, and he also plays a massive role in the creative process. This project would not work without him. So from all 3 of us, it's been a business doing pleasure with you. Join us again next week for another episode of Between Two Dumbbells.